when you draw this pattern, I'm going to draw it in black today, but yellow, of course, is better, a yellow pencil, because it won't leave marks on your splint. But this is also a grease pencil, so it does wipe off some of the materials, but it doesn't wipe off super great off this. When you find your points, you're going to make little circles around them. You found a point below the first CMC. You don't want to come at the CMCJ, and you don't want to come way below because you're going to interfere with the wrist, but you want to be just below the CMCJ for your point, just below the MCPJ for your other point, because the first splint we're going to make does not include the MCP. And you make a nice little loop. Our next set of points are in the thenar web space. So a couple points there, and another nice little loop. And the one that's a little more difficult probably for you to see is on the other side of the hand. We are going to draw two more spots, one at the wrist and one below the MP joint. Then we'll connect this loop. When she lifts it up, we have our pattern. I like to connect the dots to make it really easy to cut. Kind of sweep it down and around. Make them nice soft sweeps, and here is our completed pattern. And now that it's complete, I'm going to cut it out. I always like to use patterns with splints because then you waste a very little bit of material. Some therapists don't use patterns. That's great too, if it works for them. I'm a scrap saver because a lot of these splints are small and you can make them out of scrap material, all different types. This splint is best to make with thin materials like what we're using today, but all types of thin materials are great with this splint. Here's the final product of what we're going to get. So you can see this is going to wrap around and end up looking like this. So here's our pattern. So from our pattern, I'm going to take it to Nancy's hand and check the placement. And the placement is good. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the material. From my pattern. Again, I wouldn't use the black, but I'm going to now so you can see it. The yellow wax pencils, nicer. This material does come in all different ways and formats. It comes in rolls, it comes in sheets, it comes in thin sheets like this. So you can order it in all different forms. And there's not a front or a back. You know how some materials are, there's a front and a back because it's a coated material. This is the same on both sides. A nice feature of this material is that you can throw it back in the water over and over and over, which is very good, of course, for beginning therapists. And now it's ready. Just dry it off a bit before I put it on her. Carefully molding the CMC first. Have your patient lightly opposed, not pinch, just lightly opposed, and wrap it around the back of the hand. You don't need to pull or squeeze, it just gently molds in. You can roll the edges while it's hot, or you can do the finishing tape, which I'll show you how to do both. But while the material is warm, you can do edge rolling as well. And again, she's in a lightly opposed position in order to give her the best functional use of her hand. And it covers the entire CMC, but is not restricting her wrist. Those are things you have to make sure that you've met when you design this little splint.